haven't had to do press in fucking ages. See, last year I had to do a shit ton. There was a tour with Exploited, but we wanted to go to hospital 18 months ago, and I had to do all the singing. So there was a constant, every day I had to do 3 or 4 press days, you know, like...
Yeah.
Sit there and do interviews, but like, and it was just like, I usually don't have to do it because no one gives a fuck anyway. But because Waddy wasn't there and because I was doing the singing, I got chucked in doing it. And it was just like... I couldn't say anything. Any question they were asking me, I said, well, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. Like, you can't, anything I say was going to be in trouble. Like, what, he go mental? Like, see, I'm a total hippie.
You should have fucking said this, man.
No, but I'm a hippie and he's a violent cunt. Like, so just, you know.
So how has that all been, man? Like, how has...
Having Justice back is a good laugh, man.
Yeah, man. So how long's he actually been solidified as back?
Well, because when Robbie said he was leaving... before Christmas, I think, or something. But he finished up. He did the Russian tour. We'd already been rehearsing with Justice before then. So I think since February, Matt's been back in full time. Like,
it's just like old times.
That's fucking so funny, man. And him banging roadies, or groupies, not roadies.
Whatever I'll do is another arse man. He's on it. But any like gigs of note that have been like cracking, any more fucking flares in the pit that make...
Yeah, Russia, every gig in Russia this time, man. The same boy, he's from the Baltic Fleet. I've become good friends with him actually, Andre. And pretty much every gig he brings along flares and like fucking at some point your mosh pit. Yeah.
It's like, fucking psycho.
Except he wasn't allowed to go to Minsk because there's a war in Ukraine. And Belarusia won't allow anyone to come directly from Russia because they're worried that the Ukrainians are going to kick off.
Okay.
Fun times, eh?
Well, it's already kind of fucking started anyway, so this is another Scapegoat podcasting, and that's Rob, by the way.
Hey!
In Ireland, they call him Robert.
Just Rob. Irish Rob.
Just Rob. But yeah, like, what? You've been in fucking Carmen Burn, Exploited, fucking, what was it, Town Called Hell? Were you in that?
I was in Town Called Hell briefly. Well, yeah. Fucking when Sue decided he no longer wanted to play bass, I got the call.
Yeah, you were just like, fuck this noise.
Yeah.
But then also you're like a legendary sound man, folk ask for you all the fucking time, and you've also engineered like festivals and fucking God knows what, man, in your time. Yeah. And also we've got James over here just being like, set dressing.
Here once again, back once again.
But yeah, man, like, you've probably got a lot to say about, like, the fucking scene and things you've seen in, how long is it now? 14, 15 years that you've been playing Exploited?
We're playing Exploited since, 2004. I worked for them for a few years before I started playing with them, and I used to be in Certain Death.
Yeah.
But then I got kicked out. Of Certain Death, Robbie.
What did you do?
I didn't like him. Me and Robbie were best pals.
That's just cold.
It was just a different sort of...
Musical bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they signed to Rockstar North. That was way after I'd been kicked out, but it was never... I didn't like... There's a guy called Leslie Benz, he's a fucking asshole.
Told you he's a villain, didn't he?
Yeah, shoehorn that in anyway.
Yeah, man.
But they changed their name to Drive By Audio.
That was what they were called.
Yeah, which I was all about. Like, but when it started off, it was brilliant. Robbie, his brother Shawnee D singing, and Big Grim Jim. It was like a sort of heavier version of fucking Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
And it slowly changed a little bit, you know. And I was more into the hardcore scene then, and certainly more than I am now, because the UK hardcore scene has changed completely.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. You know, there's very little. I mean, bands like S.U.P, who I always thought, you know, were the fucking pinnacle, or you know, that's what UK hardcore is, and then it sort of, you know, changed after things like Bring Me the Horizon. People started referring to these kind of bands as hardcore.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not.
Doesn't stack up as well, in my opinion.
They're nothing to do with hardcore. I mean, there still is. I mean, even if you think about the New York hardcore scene,
like Madball,
Billy, you know, Biohazard.
Yeah.
I was just speaking to the bass player from them the other day, actually, and.
Yeah, because Robbie's still working with them.
A bit, yeah. But then, you see, because Billy I think he's now got a couple of different bands that he's touring. As in, when he's in Europe, there's different musicians. I know in America, they even there they sort of have different. He has different musicians. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very. I mean, it's an interesting project because he's using all this sort of crazy technology. Like doing this stuff is really cool. You know, 4K.
Yeah.
But he's using those. What are they like? Sphere cameras.
Yeah, they get the full 360.
That's it. I mean, I'm just watching the videos and then using them as a tool to try and like make the shows because he's got a fucking Madonna headset on, you know. Like,
Creeping all about the fucking place.
You know you're hardcore when you wear that and you're not getting the piss taken out of you. That's cool.
He's got the fucking lineage of that shit, man. Like, I think he's earned the right to literally do whatever. He could turn up dressed like Van the Man and everyone would be like, yeah, fuck it.
He's been through it, you know. guys, it's a shame. I don't think that Biohazard really doing much anymore. And you know, I mean, Evan left 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. It's not been the same since.
I've spoken about this publicly before, but like there was one video on a drilling another vein VHS, and it was it was a Biohazard video, and it was cut between a live show and the studio.
Oh, right on.
And it was like, who the fuck are them guys in the back? Like that was my first initial thought. I was like, that's the band, that's the engineer. Who the fuck are they? And I was like, I want to be one of them guys.
Yeah.
So
just crew.
just crew, just like chilling, suicidal tendency
hardcore
style.
version of hype guys. You know?
Man. Always like holding on to that tiny little bit of J at the end. Just
this is important. He needs this for when he comes off stage.
yeah, man. It's always fucking essential. Every last fucking draw.
I'll carry that.
Actually, speaking of New York hardcore, just a few weeks ago, Cro-Mags, Harley Flanagan has got the name of Cro-Mags back from John
Nice.
Bloodclot. Yeah, John Vincent is his name. But yeah, that's old school. Like Harley Flanagan, I've toured with that guy. He's a
Wasn't
fucking
he
maniac.
like
One of the
really
nicest
into
guys.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu and
He
stuff
is
like
still.
that as well?
And Japanese Willow. Yeah, I mean, I toured in Japan with him, and he went out in the mornings to dojos every day just to fight people and stuff. He's a fucking. It was at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
One of the Gracie sons, was it Richard or? I'm not sure. He
There's
died
Hoist,
young.
Julio.
So it's Hoist's son, I think.
Right. Okay.
And he had a dojo or whatever, a fighting academy in Manhattan, in New York, and Harley now is taking that over as far as I know.
So he's like a fucking assassin.
Oh,
man.
don't fuck with the guy. Not just that. I mean, he was a street kid almost. You know, there's photographs of him hanging out with like Andy Warhol and David Bowie and Blondie and shit in Studio 54. In the 70s as a teenager, like 13, 14-year-old. There's a fucking Allen Ginsberg book of poetry where the introduction is written by Harley or dedicated to Harley or something. And seriously, the guy is fucking. And he's a Harley
That's
Krishna.
the most highbrow reference we're ever gonna have on this, by the way. It had to be fucking you that come into that shit. Yeah, like.
Well, I mean, and the guy, like, genuinely, he's terrifying. He's a lovely soul, he really is. And I say, he's a Hare Krishna, and that was part of the kind of some of their, I suppose, reactionary hardcore stuff in the 80s. But that was gang.
I own his book. I've not read it yet, but I've seen the fucking documentaries and stuff like that behind it.
Well,
so.
they're out now supporting the Misfits on this, this big Danzig.
Yeah, like
and
the
actually
original
AC.
thing.
Well, it isn't. Yeah, but I mean, Doyle's there, cool. But AC Slade is also their second guitar.
Okay.
It was fucking awesome. AC's a great. I mean,
I've never been the biggest Misfits fan. I don't know.
I'll be the same. Do you know? For me, it's weird. I really like the Michael Graves album. Dig Up Their Bones, all that sort of stuff.
I was not big on the Famous Monsters album.
That's it. Yeah, like that. And I didn't really think about it because the Misfits was like an obligatory as a sort of skate punk. I had to fucking listen to the Misfits. I didn't even think about it. Like
Devo as well was another obligatory. You just have to like him because you own a skateboard.
Michael Graves is playing in Glasgow actually in a couple of weeks' time. He's doing the.
Who is, sorry?
Michael Graves. He's doing the Famous Monsters.
That's right, man. Yeah.
Wildcats.
I just saw that in South America. Their tour manager. I mean, they've played here 3 or 4 times at this point now, and it's Arturo Sandioli. Shit, I forgot. I'm not good with names. But
the amount of cunts you know, I'm surprised you slip up on one.
And they're for me. Probably, I know they're not selling out fucking arenas.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's kind of better, really, that you have to not struggle, but that you fucking fight for what you got,
Well, that's actually
I
a
think
good
Danzig's
point,
probably
like,
not.
to riff off of there, because like pretty much the whole podcast and like the Scapegoat thing is like I'm loving the DIY, the up and coming, and all that lot. But don't get me wrong, you've got a great point of vision from like the bigger festivals, playing in bigger bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you see between the pair, like the community, the aspects from different country to country, things?
I'm
like
lucky that you see. I mean, in the punk world, and I mean this. I'm lucky enough that Indonesia, Malaysia. We're going back to Australia in March. I've just come back from South America. We were in North America last month. Just did a gig in Budapest this week, and I'm off to Canada next week.
Yeah.
That I'll give you a reference. I'm very fortunate in that we get to travel so much. And the really cool thing about the punk world is that people are not dicks. People look out for each other. If you're, I've seen it firsthand. People, getting ripped off, like Jamie Oliver, let's say, not the fucking chef.
Yeah.
The UK subs drummer.
Yeah.
We did a gig. Actually, the last time we were in Budapest, about a year and a half ago, after the gig, he was going to go to a party, and somebody ripped him off. They fucking stole all his tour money, I think a couple of £1,000 or whatever, everything he had. And I like that the whole everyone sort of reacts to that, don't they? We kind of look out and you get a couple of phone calls making sure you're all right to get back home. Is your fucking passport safe? Do you need a trip to the embassy? That's the kind of thing. And from my perspective, I know that definitely about the punk community, but I suspect the same is true of the sort of underground metal scene, underground, and I presume like dance kids must look after each other. But that's the difference between what you mean about the DIY or the sort of close-knit community scene as opposed to the sort of commercial end of things where 120 quid to see Metallica.
Easy.
That's a sort of different thing. And I'm not slagging off Metallica. They, as far as I understand it, they actually lose money more or less on tours. That they rely on merch money to make it up. Their production costs that much. And they have always salaried since the mid-80s. Their crew have been on retainers. They're salaried. So they cost a lot of fucking money to keep, whatever it is, 20 guys
that promotion going from town to town to town.
Absolutely.
There's a whole industry behind the band as well.
I mean, I think they're touring an ABC rig on this one, I believe. So they've got 3 of them, they're touring. Okay, they had been doing that for years, an A and B rig, so that, while they're playing here in Glasgow, Paris is getting set up. And then they leapfrog into Belgium or whatever. But I believe now they're doing it with a third. Which, I haven't seen it, but I've seen the Rammstein production, and this is like...
we were talking about that earlier.
Who the fuck are Kiss? Yeah, fuck
fuck Gene Simmons. Fuck him.
No, actually.
I saw footage from the Manchester Metallica thing, and it was a torrential downpour.
Oh, that's right, they were still out there.
It was just like Lars splashing a bit. It was just like that bit from The Simpsons.
It was the first time Lars has looked cool in about 25 years.
He's just splashing a bit on the...
The other thing was that we were actually looking at it and from filming and audio production and stuff like that was the Metallica's release of it, and all it is James Wright at the front, and
that's right. And Rob Chizello playing one of the things from Metallica. I think it was a Jason Newsted number, but with a pick. Now I've seen him when he was in Suicidal Tendencies.
That
the
would
guy
be the end of his career.
I've never seen him use a pick. I was like, holy fuck, this is really, I like that guy.
But even listening to that audio, you can hear that everything's just getting splashed with water, just little squeaks and frequencies and little.
I bet some gear got fucked up as well. I mean,
engineer's nightmare.
Crew
I don't know.
nightmare.
Are they? Kirk Hammett's probably, I imagine, digital as fuck. Is he? Probably Kemper, I would think. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's all Mesa boot, the
cabs and all that. But I mean, that's what really. I don't know how often I've been on festival stages, but big production, and it's got all the you've got your 45 Marshalls, and in reality, it's a fucking pod line 6 at the back. I know sometimes it's really amazing to walk across a stage, and other than drums, to hear almost nothing. It's all in your monitoring. Out front, obviously, everything's pumping, but it takes a lot of kind of discipline to be able to get into the groove like that.
Well, I've been seeing bands on documentaries now, and they're even saying with the technological advances that they're not even touring with amps.
Yeah, most people are digital now.
But
Robbie Davidson, it took us fucking years to convince him, and then I think we more or less blindfolded him and did an A/B test with he likes PV 5150 Mark 1 and a Kemper.
Yeah.
And a blend of the two is ideal, but if it's either or, he chose the Kemper 9 times out of 10. It just sounds better through the PA. Mass Justice is the opposite of that.
But if you take back 15 years and you're in a band, you're in the Exploited, and you rock up to a place and go, I don't bring amps, they're like, who the slap?
But I don't bring an amp. I've got fucking but Sans amp is what I bring. I'm a bassist. I don't give a fuck about amps.
Times have changed, man.
But the bass amp on stage is a fucking monitor for me, essentially. That really is. I mean, 9 times out of 10 there's no mic on it anyway. They're just DIing it. So the Sans amp makes such a fucking high quality product that when I XLR it in, and because I'm a sound engineer, I just dial it in. That's it, done. I don't have to worry about shit. I know that every night my bass will sound within reason, unless the engineers get really fancy with EQing, which most of us don't bother. We just compress it and leave it alone, That's fuck amps. If I mean, why carry a load of shit you don't need to? We don't bring drums
honestly,
or anything.
from the outside looking in, if you think about how quick the technology has moved, and as I say, all the rock and roll artists and metalheads and all that lot had to use this style, and then all of a sudden it's they can get on a plane with a box of tricks and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's crazy, man.
Well, even the other side of it, we were talking about this last night. It's not geeky, it's sound engineer world, so I'm going to start using fucking stupid numbers with letters.
You talk to each other then,
A lot of people in our industry slag off things like the Behringer X32. Okay, and it's because it's sort of entry-level digital console.
It's cheap and standard, but
That's
it's
it.
good.
I shit you not. If that fell out of the sky 20 years ago, every sound engineer in the world would have been on their hands and knees praying to this fucking thing. Because, like, just thinking about
the routing on it is just really.
let's just talk about physical. Right. So if you've got 32 channels, each one of those channels you can have a gate and a compressor on, and up to 4 effects. Now, if you were to do that with outboard, let's say your 32 gates are in this fucking pile here, 32 compressors here, and then what is that? So 160 odd effects, even with an M1
connections,
TC Electronics Classic, that is a huge amount of shit to do, and instead you've just got it in this little tiny box. Yeah. You can argue about the preamps not being as good as analog. That's fine. If you know what you're doing, you shouldn't run into problems. Yeah. But it's incredible how quickly things have changed. Like the likes of the guys from Glenrothes, Digico, I really like their gear, and they are based. Not a lot of people know this, but in Glenrothes, which is a fucking shithole in Fife. sorry, anyone from Glenrothes, but it's not the nicest town.
But everyone in Scotland knows.
And those were guys that worked research and development for Midas, who were at the time the kings of this industry.
Okay.
And when they kind of came back, as I understand it, this is what happened when they reported back to Midas, to the board, to say, well, this is what we think should be happening with a digital console. They were told, no, we are Midas, we make the best analog.
This way or no way.
We make the best analog consoles in the world. Why would we start making digital ones?
I get what you mean.
Meanwhile, they've been fucking bought out by the bottom of the, Behringer now own Midas, because Midas got left behind, and the whole industry moved so quickly. They were just, it wasn't sustainable. Meanwhile, like Big Mick from Metallica has thrown out a fucking, XL8. He threw it into a skip because Midas sold him one week, and then the following week, withdrew support for it in a tech world. Fuck. I mean, if you're pissing off Metallica sound engineer like that, your company's fucked. I mean, serious. That's a complete nightmare. He filmed it, put it on Twitter.
Fuck.
Him chucking it in a skip.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the 200 grand that cost or whatever.
Bottomed out.
So they were bought out by Behringer, and like that,
in the fucking skip.
The company from Glenrothes, they're crushing it internationally. Everywhere I go now, I see Digico. I've just come back from a Russian tour in February, and their new stuff they were beta testing out there, and it was. Or I happened to be in a club that had a very, very modern console, we'll say. And it's like, yeah, good fucking on you, They're now the company to keep up with.
So,
when you talked about Behringer, I mean, they were the guys, they would churn out all the cheap gear. They were the cheapest of the line of pedals and things like that.
If you think about their
they got the market, they got the cash, and then they bought over Midas, and now they're stuck chucking them.
But it's a shame, actually. Yeah, like both of them, you could argue Behringer will probably get better by having Midas under their umbrella, but definitely the opposite is true. Yeah. But Midas no longer is the company it was. No. It's been engulfed. Like the Pro 2s, we was just having a chat with an engineer last night. Midas Pro 2, beautiful console, great. But he was working at a festival, won't mention, and I think 5 times in a day the fucking thing crashed. Now the argument was that this might have been. He'd probably saved a show file from another gig, and that was the corruption, or that was why it was corrupt, and then that caused problems later.
Anything added to it.
Like they checked the firmware on the box and the Dante network, all the rest of it was all the newest updated firmware. So if they were making this stuff and it's not backwards compatible, that means they're not paying computer people, whoever it is, the software people, to make sure that these problems don't happen. Which also means that they don't give a shit about him having to explain to a fucking promoter that 5 times during a gig that it's crashed.
This has happened.
Yeah, especially not when you're spending they're about 30 grand, Pro 2s, something around that.
Not cheap anyway.
No, and they're good. They are a great console and all the rest, but that's sort of the way the industry's going. It cheap and cheerful isn't good. That's not going to last forever. Yeah, I mean we're going to get a new console in here. I really like the Yamaha one actually, but it's just, the step up in the Yamaha for us is too much money. I mean, a QL5 or a CL5 here. Okay, is it the CL5 that has the analog? One of them does analog, one of them doesn't.
Yeah. But going back, personally, what got you first interested in sound and audio and doing engineering?
I got put out a gig when I was 12 or 13. I used to play in a garage band with my pals. I got a church, an old church.
Because this is a thing that is this is full circle. And what was it last year?
I was 13 when I rented my first PA.
Because it was last year. You're still doing this architecture degree, which is about acoustics and all this lot. So it is hardwired into you. Totally. That's the thing. Which I'm how have you managed to keep this passion from 13 till now? That's something that, like, with Tommy.
But I'm lucky. I don't work. It's really good for me. It's really lucky that I can. I don't spread myself too thin, but at the same time, I don't have to I don't get bored of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Now, I couldn't get bored of playing gigs. That would never happen. Yeah. Touring for me is just always good fun. You know, that's what you kind of do the rest of your life to facilitate. But by doing it, like you say, with architecture, it was an MSc in sort of acoustics, really. It sort of feeds into what my next project I want to do is to build a recording studio. Well, to convert this old, it's a gatehouse, like a 2-story, 200-year-old, 180-year-old building at home in Kerry in Ireland, and I want to convert that into a little recording studio on the ground floor, and then have a little apartment upstairs.
Even the photographs as it looks just now,
it's
killer building.
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's going to take me 4 or 5 years, and I intend to do as much of it as possible myself, like physically.
Yeah, it's
the bits
yours.
I won't be doing. I know this sounds terrible, considering I'm an engineer and I work a lot. I won't be doing any of the electrics. I don't have confidence in my own ability to make sure I won't kill somebody. So,
but you'll be there with the clipboard, be like, no, over there.
No, I've got a buddy. He's a fucking great spark. Whereas like the carpentry, the masonry stuff, all that, like I don't mind that plastering. You know, I'll do it all myself if I can. But the electrics I won't do because I'll probably end up either dying or killing somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say, come back with one less hour.
Actually, no, I'll take it back. Fucking plumbing as well, no idea. Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's something that, like, honest to God, it's something I've always kind of wanted to ask you, because, as I said, like, when we had Tommy in as well, it was sort of the same ilk, that he has been that guy in the scene all the time, doing something similar, if not the same thing. And it's like, how do you keep that
keep
fire
the energy
alive?
back? Like talk me concrete.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly the same kind of thing. He does quite a lot of different things. You know, okay, we know him as a heavy metal guy, but I've personally collaborated with him on really weird sort of techno trance stuff for a laugh. And you know, he's always working on stuff. I don't know how many solo albums he's got now, but when he gets bored, he doesn't allow himself to stagnate. He just goes out and fucking finds something else to do. Same with the likes of Stu Gordon.
Bless him.
Yeah.
Love you, man. Like, get well soon.
Yeah, you know, he's the dude that, like, he won't ever not be doing something.
Yeah.
Graham Young.
Yeah.
You know, we're lucky that there's a lot of people in Edinburgh. It's a small city for the number of people that we have as a. And I know you use the word scene. That's different. It's a weird word for me, but there's a lot of people that just are, like, if you think about Bomb Scare.
Yeah.
Those people are integral. I know when I was putting on little gigs in places like Opium and stuff like this, I wouldn't have been able to put those gigs on without borrowing cables from those guys, or a speaker here, or, you know, can you pick up this with a fucking, like Ali Lowe, these guys that, you know, we all just provided, when we could help each other out, we did. There was no kind of cattiness or bitchiness about it. You know, like, oh, I need to borrow a bass amp. Yeah. I know a guy with a bass amp.
Yeah.
Can you pick it up? No, but we'll get a taxi, and, you know, blah blah.
You'll get free entry and a beer when you turn up.
You know, that kind of stuff, and it goes a long way with people's understanding. A band like Bomb Scare, those guys should be they should be headlining Glastonbury.
Oh, yeah. They should have a peerage.
Definitely up there.
Yeah, they're a great band. I'm delighted. Mandy's been out playing with Katie Tunstall, which is fucking awesome. She was playing at Wembley. Not long ago. I was so stoked. You know what I mean? A person like Mandy deserves that. And it's not like, I hear this shit about lucky break. No, it's not. You just practice and you put yourself forward all the time. And
that's off to anyone who can get up there.
Exactly. You've got to be prepared 99 times out of 100 to get a crushing no. But, you know, just in the hope that once, 100 times that you get this opportunity to go and do something like that. Yeah.
But we are very, very lucky here, as you just said. You've just rattled through, as I say, like Stu Gordon yourself, Hef that also works here, James.
Oh, you mean Alan? I called him Alan last night for the first time, and I think it pissed him off, so I'm just going to go with it.
So it's Alan now, right?
Alan.
I had to cover for him the other week there on a shift, and they were like, oh, so you know, blah, blah, blah. Alan. I was like, oh, that's his real name. Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry, it's not.
Well, I used to call him Fake Hef. because of Fraser from Firebrand Super Rock, Fraser Marr. He's another fucking brilliant, you know, AV guy. Okay, he's more into his lights, but he can teach a lot of us soundies a lot about stuff. Really intelligent, clever guy. And I thought his name was fucking Hef. I got it mixed up years ago, so I was calling him Hef. He never corrected me. And then when Hef when I got introduced to Hef, I was like, all right, you're fake Hef and he's real Hef.
Oh my
And then
God.
somebody explained, it was like, he's not Hef at all, he's Fraser. I was like, all right, well, you're still fake Hef.
That's what it is now. But that's another guy. Like we are so lucky that we've got such a like intense scene here, and as well as the fact that the people that are in it know their shit.
Fucking Brian Jones. I mean, do you know Brian Jones? Sound engineer. He works at LaBelle a lot. He was just doing Kelburn, I think.
Oh, right.
Brilliant engineer, but I knew him. Bristol Square, the fucker could ollie the height of my head. He was a skateboarder and a seriously amazing skateboarder. And then, years later we're chatting and it's like, fucking hell, man. Like, I used to watch him. He could ollie higher than anyone else I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, they used to say Danny Way was our what's in Wainwright that had the
Danny
highest.
Wainwright, 42 inches, yeah, man.
Honestly, I reckon Jonesy was up about, it must have been about that, He was that fucking good. And just as a little, so like, you think about Nasty P, a hip-hop DJ here in Edinburgh, we used, across the road, but before it burnt down, the living room, we used to, go there on Thursdays and Fridays, a great place for underage drinking, apparently. I obviously was over 18. So
well, you're an old man. So.
By then, But it was a really good hip-hop culture back then in Edinburgh that existed without a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
we did cypher battles and stuff like that.
I mean, I used to do a thing in here at Dirty District for a laugh because I got pissed off that all the Motherfunk moved to George Street to Opal Lounge, and we had it was basically like Polish rap battles in here, and some of it the breakdancing competitions were fucking insane.
Yeah, wild.
Before we got this new floor when it was all concrete, and I got mats in from the Kirkcaldy.
Watch your teeth.
Yeah, the Fife crew.
Yeah.
Like breakdancing mats because I was worried that people would cut themselves on broken glass. But the Polish hardcore dudes were like, nah, dude. They wanted to get nasty on the fucking concrete. I was like, right, okay.
Man, I must admit the old school days in here with, as you're saying, like the raw floor and without having walls in here as well.
Sorry, I got to bring it right. Nasty P recently supported Beyonce and Jay-Z in the Hydro, I guess. It was in Glasgow and all that. But it was at their request. There is an email that you can see on the internet, and it's Jay-Z and Beyonce being like, we would like for Nasty. Well, Nasty P's that good.
Yeah.
They're used to. There's another guy, JP. I know him as he's Northern Irish. He won the European DMC Championships in 2001. Part of the prize was to go to New York to have a residency at Scratch.
Yeah.
And it was like the 8th or 9th of September or something. He flew out. The 11th of September 2001 wasn't a good day in New York.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So kind of, and I don't know that he's DJing anymore, but he was incredible. You could watch these guys, turntablists, 9 times out of 10 when you watch a DJ, they're just fucking about trying to look cool.
Yeah.
When you watch somebody who's really masterful, controlling, making it an instrument, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's a different thing than the kind of
it's a craft
USB fucking set pretending
but I would say that's the whole deal with fucking everything though. I've seen noise artists and drone and Doom and stuff like that, and there's a line in the sound where it's like, you guys have just got nice pedals and you guys are actually good at what you do.
There's one of them, the 2-piece, I think they got Goat in the title, wear bishop's robes. One of them has a big staff. You've definitely seen them, and they do, it's like an art. Boy's got a big pedal board of effects, and he usually keeps a mic like a 58 up his sleeve and kind of just rattles it and things.
Oh yeah.
And the guy's got it's an ancient druidic fucking staff, but it's got a little string on it and stuff. Is it not? It's not Goat Horror, but it's.
I can't fucking remember now.
Yeah, but they do that kind of stuff. Art installations at really highbrow things. And then they come and play Banshee Labyrinth. 12 and a half of us fucked out of our nuts, and it's amazing.
Melt Banana are coming to play the fucking caves.
Cool.
So that's going to be something to be like, what the fuck, man? Again, that's...
Their engineer, John, he's a good guy. Right across the road, John.
How could you engineer that? That's one of the things that I'm always like, he's got to be literally another member of the band. You can't just have him as a fucking on board for that tour. You got to be pretty well known to get that shit to work well.
Or just don't do anything and make it just rely on the fact that that's it's a good thing to not, particularly as a live engineer, not to colour things too much. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Napalm Death, if you start fucking mixing Napalm Death like you want it to sound like Madonna, you'll end up with some absolutely horrible shit. Yeah. Whereas if you just go, all right, that's what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
All right. Don't have an opinion about it. Just make it louder, sound reinforcement, as opposed to trying to make it sound like that's my fucking kick drum sound. That's the way I make every kick drum sound. Matt Justice. It's kind of not. It's not good business, is it? To make I don't know.
Every
12-piece
like
brass band from fucking the Balkans sound like Metallica. It's stupid, isn't it?
Yeah. I get what you mean. You gotta leave them to actually flesh out their own thing.
You always find out as well, like, so band turns up, you never know what's going to walk through those doors, you know.
Yeah.
You never know, are they going to be using house kit, or are they going to be bringing all their own backline? And then turn around and say, no one else can use our shit. So you know there's going to be like a 20-minute turnover of like, oh, shift.
Or even worse, on a small stage like this, a drummer with a big kit, then saying, no, you can't strike my kit. Like there are other bands set up around and said, well, there isn't physically room for a drummer to set up now.
Yeah.
That's a pretty shitty thing you're doing to that band that's come to support your band, try and bring their friends to see your band, blah blah blah. I get it when it's a nice expensive drum kit. Yeah, you don't want it fucked with. That's absolutely, I understand that, but it does sometimes require. Well, we better pack this down, or you say before you start setting it up, because I've done that in the past to headline bands that have had an attitude, been like, well, okay, but we're going to have to set your drum kit up to the side.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can't work for the rest of the night. And then, well, it's different then, isn't it? It's that kind of ego.
Well, I mean, it's just as easy to replace drum skins. I mean, you're just like changing out like every band can bring up their own like breakables and stuff.
The trouble is, like, in theory, you're right. But you're like a nice, naive person. Like the truth is, like some drummers are assholes and they will just fuck your gear up and walk away because they don't give a shit. It's not theirs. There's those kind of people. Like if I borrow something from somebody, I will make sure I give it back to them in the same. If something happens to that piece of equipment, I'll pay for it to be replaced or repaired or whatever, and I will feel guilty about it. I certainly won't treat it like if it's my own stuff. I'm much more likely to not respect it. Whereas if it's somebody else's gear, you look after it. But drummers,
100%.
No, this sounds like I'm being a dick to all drummers, but it's just true that some people will not have respect for your gear. Yeah, and I understand that, like over and over again.
To put this into context, though, that like you were one of the first, if you want to call it, peers that I had in the metal scene in Edinburgh when I first acclimatized to this scene. And the thing is, after, as I say, it wasn't the first thing that you said to me, but as soon as I like acclimatized to the fact that you were playing in Exploit and you were an engineer here and stuff like that, it was one of the things that I always took for granted, if you want to call it, that you, somebody that doesn't have to do that, will be here at 4 o'clock with your hand outstretched to be like, hey bud, how's it going? That sort of thing. So you acclimatized me to that straight off the bat, and then, don't get me wrong, some of the interactions I've had then thereafter, I've kind of been like, well, this was what I was watershed moment, acclimatized you from the beginning.
It's good to be normal, man. There was a thing, people of my sort of, in the 90s particularly, it was viewed as being cool to be a bit of an asshole. Actually, the 80s probably spawned it, I imagine, but...
Cocaine spawned that shit!
Yeah, right. That kind of thing. I just have no fucking time for that kind of idiotic idea that to be kind of like, oh, I'm going to be really cool by being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's just, just be nice to folk. Get on with it. I mean, if someone's been a dick
to
you,
then punch them in the throat. But you weren't even sniffing your own bullshit at that time. You were just an engineer. It wasn't like and the other things that you've got behind you. It was just, you were the nice guy to shake the guy. It doesn't matter if there's an acoustic guy that never played a gig before or the touring band or whatever. You would have the exact same face every time. How you doing? Blah blah.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely awesome.
Professional.
Like again, when we're sitting around the back bar and a guy's trying to like tune up into a dehumidifier and stuff.
Oh, that was fucking amazing.
And then
no, it's not even that. Right.
This story needs to be told.
I'm going to get a beer and I'm going to tell that story and I'll name names. You want the Magners?
Yeah, please, man.
Heineken. Go for it.
I'll prattle on a bit about you. But I won't tell that story. Yeah. But the thing was that like, it was the year of the beards.
Yeah.
We had like a whole bunch of us down the back bar that would just sit and get horribly drunk. And no doubt, as I say, it would be like Stu Gordon or Hef or Rob that was doing the sound in here. And as I say, if you got like that douchebag that he's talking about, like that was when the pool table was here. So the first thing they would do would be like, Bailey, can you come and beat this guy at pool just to shut him up? Yeah. And then it would also be like that kind of leery asshole just to be like, just come and watch this guy be a dick. So there would just be a gallery of us just standing in here watching people be dicks, and they really simmered down very quickly.
So you realise you've got these like beards at the back of the room, like
they're not always judging.
Well, here's the interesting thing was like with where Rob is coming from, Rob, Matt, those guys. You know, they were sort of like the sort of like headrunners, and even yourself actually being one of the sort of like bartender guys The Studio 24?
Yeah, we did the Banshee
Mission
Studios.
Studio
I
24.
lived above here, so I didn't work here, but I lived here.
But just to sort of like reiterate and talk about what was and what is and what is. When you come to Edinburgh, if you see Edinburgh, there's this thing that people will talk about as in the Studios days, which was a venue that closed down last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, Carlton Road, Carlton Studios. Yeah.
And it was pretty much like, well, we managed to get, like, there was like Soulfly played, there was fucking... Oh,
yeah, fucking
Jesus
Duncan
Christ.
from Triple G utilised that quite a lot back in the day. So
Got
pretty much
fucking
all the
studio.
biggest bands at the time that played in the Carlton Studios.
So if they were in town, they were at the studios. And unfortunately, due to some planning permissions and shit, well, they all had to like close down and things. So people have now, I guess, like ejaculated themselves over to like other venues. It's just kind of like exploded. So you've got Bannermans doing their bit, you've got Opium doing their bit, you've got Banshee doing their bit, and you've got Labelle all doing their bit, and it's all, like I said, from the death of the studios. I mean, these places were always here.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of now that that's no longer a thing, it's like we're having to branch out and find our new home, and I guess maybe it's almost diluting things, and it's like...
But this is it, like, I might have said this before, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry whoever's watching.
Too.
But yeah, like, the thing is that I remember even going back before the studios, that there was the venue, and then before the venue, there was the tap.
Yep.
And places like that, and each time that them venues got shut down, then the thing was, everyone was crying over spilt milk. But then the thing is, then there you go. But then the scene then got revitalised as well because of the new place that people could go instead of it being the old stagnant old one.
Just before you go in, I was just mentioning the fact that what's happened now and what happened before was that before there was a venue, the Studio 24 studios and stuff.
I've heard of it.
I heard about it. Yeah.
No, you're straight edge, right?
I mean, I drove past it a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Officer.
Okay.
I did not judge.
Honest God.
I did not inhale.
Oh, sorry, not understand.
Yeah.
Give me a clean search. Yeah.
Unless, hang on, do I want to be a fucking Tory leader? I did loads of coke. Fucking racking it up constantly. Yeah. Honest God.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just sort of saying about that's sort of where things have come from, and now there's like the venues are stepping up now.
But you know, I think unfortunately that we're missing out on sort of mid-sized places. We do now have some, you know, good small places and all the rest. But there is, and Labelle Angel, for my money, is Studio 25.
Yeah.
And that's, but I mean, obviously things have to change and all the rest.
It really helps that Matt's running it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, I remember when like Labelle, I was one like two of those venues. what's now Stramash was Wilkie House. Just before that burnt, there was a fire there, and I used to play in a band called Abigail's Glorious Voice.
That was way before my time.
Exactly. No, I mean it's 20 years ago. So like the first, this is fucking great. Like so we did a gig, and I gave a demo to the singer from Minus. You know, Minus. Serious heavy metal. And he listened to it. Next time I saw him, he was like, yeah, so you're like post-hardcore emo? Or no, post-emo.
Yeah, whatever.
Post-emo hardcore. And I was like, fuck, right, alright. Is that what you're fucking... You know, I was just like, alright. Hammy played drums in it, a guy called Norman O'Malley, probably one of the best musicians I've ever had the privilege of playing with, and he harmonised. He did backing vocals on this record without any of the lead vocals being tracked.
Nice.
Like, guy's fucking genius. I think level of difficulty infinite.
Exactly.
And he just and him just like, yeah, that's it, done, cool.
Fucking nice.
But right, yeah, and I was like, that was the first time I'd heard the word emo. When I heard post-emo hardcore,
and you're like,
I was like, cool. All right, and it was, you know, he was right. Yeah, it's very emo. Like it really was. You know,
I've never heard this. You need to hit me up with this shit.
Abigail's Glorious Voice, Hammy, and we brought in a second percussionist. In fact, the original drummer was a jazz guy called Tom, but he had to go. He was a real drummer and had to actually pursue music. Actually, for fuck-ups. And, you know. But I got a friend of mine, Aidan McGrath, who came in and played second, sort of, you know, drums, percussion. Just one of these really naturally talented, really gifted percussionist. And it was going places, and then we kind of split up. There was ladies and stuff involved, whatever.
Well,
I want to go back to this fucking
that's
story.
what I was just about to say about it.
Right, okay,
shall we try and shoehorn this back in?
So it was a band called Goo Goo Muck, who are a Cramps tribute band, and really good band actually. They've played here a couple of times and I really enjoy it.
This was about 5
I mean, if you like the Cramps, you get. It's not. It doesn't have to be fucking like
on the note.
Well, exactly. It doesn't. It shouldn't be music for the sake of perfection, or it shouldn't be really rigid. There should be fluid, and same with I would think Iggy Pop, Patti Smith, these sort of influences in my musical taste. Sometimes it's a bit raw. Neil Young is a bit and like Hendrix, exactly. It doesn't have to be Steve Vai, John Petrucci. It doesn't have to be fucking that kind of thing. But this guy was so funny. And Tommy Concrete and Johnny Ballbag were in at the time.
Yeah.
And
you got us all. You got us all to come in.
And it was actually before we had the air conditioning in here, we had dehumidifiers because this is a cave and it was very moist and really bad for everything, having mold.
Smells.
But it was a big industrial, like a big black industrial dehumidifier that was at the side of the stage, right? And the guy was playing, and then he turns around and he's like, "Yeah, can I get more bass in my monitor?" And he puts his leg on the dehumidifier, and he's like, "That's my." He walked back to the microphone. He's like, "That's my monitor, right?" And I'm biting my fucking inside my cheeks. I was like, "No, dude, that's a dehumidifier. The monitor is the thing with the speakers at the front of the stage, like where you had to walk from."
The thing that the noise is coming out of.
And not in any malicious way. It was just really, really fucking hilarious. But those kind of things.
I remember it was one of those things of like you must have came for a beer or something, and you couldn't hold yourself together, and you were like, "Please, you've got to come see this." It's like, okay. It's like one of the finest moments that Bannermans has ever offered.
I think even Tommy wrote a little bit in one of his books. There's a little incident. Actually, it's probably the one that hasn't been published. I should probably not mention that. Oops.
Snip!
Cut. Oh, is it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be in one of the books.
Well, he's got so many fucking projects these days.
Yeah.
And he was like also in the Exploited for a hot minute as well.
It was about a year and a half or something, yeah.
Was it that long?
Yeah, it was. I think so, yeah.
Right, okay.
We had some fucking hilarious gigs with him, actually.
Yeah, because also let's talk about, because we've gone over like a few of the exploited things in your engineering, but like with the smaller bands that you've been in, as I say,
I was in the Tommy Concrete and the Werewolves.
Yes, you
were. Was it a 45-minute set with a 30-minute rehearsal? And that,
but that seems to be like the standard.
Cheat sheet and be like, right, what notes? Great. Yeah. And I had like a bar stool with my notebook, my diary or whatever, and that was it. Go. Good laugh.
But then like the other one, which I will still say was one of my, if not my favourite gig, top 3 in here, was when you played for Karma to Burn in here.
Oh yeah.
That was like a fucking absolute treat.
Yeah.
And I had to do the fanboy thing, right? I've never done it to any of my other friends, but I took a ticket stub up to him. Right? Can you sign my ticket? Because that was like, to my knowledge though, but that was the first time that there was 4 of you on stage as Karma to Burn. There's 2 bass players playing.
That's right.
Yeah, so the thing was, I was like, I'm going to commemorate.
No, there wasn't. There was only 2 because the bass player didn't go on tour because he was a fucking junkie.
All right, okay, you can say that.
That's why the first. So that was it. I did 1 song with them here. I played 20 with them. I was doing sound anyway.
Yeah.
No, that was they did that. It was a sort of 7 or 8 week European tour as a 2-piece, including Hellfest, big gigs.
Because so just Evan.
No, Evan and Will. Yeah. Because Rob had left the band a couple of years before. That's why Evan was playing drums,
Yeah.
And but it was Rich is the bass player.
Okay.
And he's. For
the junkie one.
Yeah, for want of a better word, he's addicted to fucking heroin and.
But also, like me knowing you love fucking Karma to Burn.
Oh, big
and
time,
then you got to
I flew to London from Ireland to see them before coming back, and for example, yeah, absolutely.
But you also I think you gave me that stat of like one of the most dangerous bands in the world, Exploited. Check. One of the other most dangerous bands being Karma to Burn. Check.
Karma to Burn was the bands like that. Me and my buddies we'd buy the vinyl and we'd sit in an old attic or whatever and just maybe smoke a joint or whatever, listen to this music. This was I rate Will Meckham as high as I do like Tony Iommi, and is probably as influential as a songwriter on me, for me. He's a master when you see the way he writes
he's
riffs.
A riff god.
He really is, eh? Yeah. And it's funny as shit touring with him because he's just such a fucking normal dude that he wakes up, has a beer, smokes a cigarette, writes a riff, has lunch, smokes a cigarette, has a beer, writes another riff. He's got a song by dinner time. And the next morning I think about going to the studio and recording the album, let's go on tour, all right. He's a really straightforward, lovely human being.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate to get that call and be like, yeah, I can fit in this I mean, I was fortunate. Watty wasn't. He was lying in a fucking hospital bed, almost dying. At the time, Watty had a heart attack, so I had this gap.
Was that the one on stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun, man.
Yeah, it wasn't nice at all. That was in Lisbon, in Portugal. And in fact, today, probably right now, a friend of mine, the guy who looked after Watty and Willie and Matt stayed with him while Watty was in hospital. A guy called Rui is getting married. And I was supposed to be going to his wedding today, and I was going to fly direct from Budapest, but I couldn't get out of certain things here, like
Scapegoat
work and stuff.
But you first.
Sorry, like that he's not at your wedding, man.
Rui, this is where I genuinely am in Edinburgh. Sorry, but I was and me and my girlfriend we were going to have a little bit of a holiday in Portugal.
Yeah.
Which would be nice. I like the sunshine.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
You're one of like the only folk that can actually get away with it.
Yeah.
You fuck
off, Ginger. You're just jealous.
I know. And honestly, that fucking bulb will give me a tan by the end of this, man.
Cool.
But like, you still skating?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because again, I remember like the odd photo like appears of you skating, and you're like, but that way.
Fuck, this is weird. Because that same guy, Rui, it was the guy who at the start of a tour 2 years ago, there was a picture of me, actually drone footage of me skating a skate park.
Yeah.
Pair of red shorts, lovely day and all that, right?
Yep.
Drone footage.
Yeah, he had a drone, so it was rad, and cool. But the fucking idiot put it online, and I'm not like skateboard for good reason. I'm sure. Like,
take that the fuck down.
It's too late by then.
Yeah.
I have a history of breaking myself because I'm a shit skateboarder, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Talking about this, like bombing the hill here. I used to do that all the time on my way to work. Now, if I try that as an old man, I'm fucking dead.
Your hips would be fun.
It's when you hear about these rock star injuries, about these rocker injuries, it's like, oh, he's just like skateboarding, BMXing or something. Like, wait,
the terrifying shit. Like, think about the likes of Michael Schumacher, right?
Fuck.
Or even rest his soul, Colin McRae.
Yeah.
These dudes do the most
even know he's
intensely dangerous shit. Yeah, he's dead. Colin McRae died in a helicopter crash.
It's a helicopter.
He killed his kid and his neighbor.
In the Highlands.
Holy fuck.
His kid's best pal, right? But that was it. And, helicopter crash is a fairly arbitrary and awful thing and really dreadful. But these guys have left, like the most dangerous, stupid shit. But again, Mike Schumacher's skiing.
Was it Kirk Hammett? Not Kirk Hammett. I think it was like Hetfield or someone was skateboarding, and it was like Slash was BMXing. It was like in the arena, and they're going to be played. So what happened? Oh fuck! I
remember having a good skate. I was out skating in Montebello Rockfest, and Korn were headlining the following night, and Fieldy. I mean, I don't know much about Korn. Their crew led me to believe that they were slightly dickheadish. I'll be honest, and. Then they got it in my head to try and steal that mic stand. I didn't really.
The Geiger one.
It's a fucking $1 million or $1 million. It's got its own security, Whoops, stupid idea. But I was pissed. I didn't give a shit. And all that stuff. I was like, fuck these guys. But actually, Fieldy was a really cool dude, and he likes his mountain bike. He's out on his bike. It's like rad. Cool. That's me prejudging. I just presumed they'd all be assholes because of the surrounding nonsense. People like I believe Elton John's a lovely dude. I know a guy who's worked with him, but it's the people that they're surrounded by. They're kind of assholes. The personal assistants demanding flowers in every room. This kind of shit makes it so that, and probably Elton John doesn't even know that's going on.
Yeah. Well, on a slightly less extreme as like people dying and stuff, one of the funniest stories again from you was like you went, I'm pretty sure it was to South America, and then the next time I saw you, and to put this into context, he never really wears a hat. And then you come up wearing a fucking
they made it from it. Shit, a sick mind.
So,
skate company, but they went bust, so there's no point in
first
plugging
thing
them.
I was like, what the fuck happens on tour, man?
Motherfucker on it. The reason I wasn't so happy wearing it is my mom would kill me. She's on Facebook now, so I can't really do that,
But it was one of them things you said you just came back and you was just like brushing your teeth.
That's right.
Man. But it was like, dude,
fucking
you went to probably one of the most dangerous places on earth. Like, you went and played an exploited gig where the footage is fucking mental. You were absolutely fine. Come back home, brush your teeth, fuck yourself up.
That's actually it's a similar story to this Scar. This happened in Detroit 7 or 8 years ago, I suppose, and we were playing, and these neo-Nazis, Aryan Brotherhood guys, were at the show, and our merch guy at the time, Otter, has Thor's hammer tattoo, which is a fucking unfortunately for a lot of North Americans, it's they're white power bullshit kind of thing,
Yeah.
And Otter, who's Norwegian, it's sort of actually, it's sort of like, and this white power guy is presuming that they're buddies because they're both fucking skinheads with hair.
Yeah.
And Otter kind of says to him, this guy talking, he's like, you should probably try and get yourself a tattoo, more akin to your sort of cultural heritage here in North America, like, I don't know, like a dream catcher or something. And I gave my Aryan word I wouldn't fucking fight tonight. Later on, they tried to bully people, and then there was a genuine, like,
Get the fuck out.
No, like, as in a 20 versus 20 Western style bar brawl of violence, really gnarly as fuck, right? So bear in mind this scar.
Yeah.
So wake up the bus driver, get the bus out before the cops arrive, and it's all gnarled fucking people, and we get about 10 miles down the road, and Danny, or one of our crazy Danny, our roadie, tripped me up, hit the fucking corner of the table on the bus. Exactly that. Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Walked away scot-free. But these are monster dudes. Like,
Yeah.
I won't talk about individual things in case there would be court cases, but like,
you would have
balls
been
and
a
knives
different,
and, like, all kinds of
human
crazy.
being if you were in the midst of that.
Fuck.
But yeah, you're absolutely like full of all of these most crazy stories, and I must admit, it's actually really cool that we do have a scene where, I'm not gonna lie, if you want to call it the top of the trees to tour like you do, and on a label like, because Exploit's on Napalm now.
No, never on Napalm.
Was it not
on
Napalm?
Nuclear Blast.
Nuclear
Yeah,
Blast.
for years.
Apologies.
And Marcus, I hope you get to see this, and we do stuff honestly, because we haven't released a record for about 20 years.
Well, there you go. He wants to play some new music, so we just put it out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good as well, because as I say, that you get these young kids that come in and they can see the top end of the scale, if you want to call it. It's not behind this iron curtain of like Metal Hammer or whatever it is. They can speak to you like,
But isn't that interesting as well, how things have changed, that kind of, the industry had to be delivered to us as teenagers as, these are the big bands, these are the big labels, here's a, sampler CD to go and, listen to that, and then you go buy the album. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, if you try and explain to the average 15-year-old who's hooked up to Spotify what the fucking notion of like waiting for a CD, like an actual album, or the thing, a physical thing, they don't really get how important it was to have this. And now the structure of the industry is really in flux, which is from my standpoint. I really embrace the likes of Napster. I think illegally downloading fucking stuff is great. I know I'm
shouldn't say that, but yes, it's great.
And then later on you can decide, okay, I want to go to the show, I want to buy a T-shirt. The band actually ends up getting the money instead of it going siphoned off into record label world.
Yeah, distilled out to different parties.
One of the guys, a guy who played here last night, he is now taking Pledge Music to court. I think they've gone bust actually.
Yeah.
Pledge Music, they were ripping off people left, right, and centre. This sort of thing, but then like Kickstarter and all these things, these different platforms for bands to get a way to make their music accessible to people. Yeah, but like the internet, fuck it, fuck the world, fuck record labels. Why the fuck? They have no relevance anymore. Almost. I mean,
nearly.
Yeah, exactly. But not. I mean, they don't control the sector anymore. And it's better if the musicians involved and the audience involved get to control more of it than the people who were spoon feeding what they wanted us to buy. And giving money to from record labels to magazines to like think about Dry Kill Logic, shit band, on Roadrunner Records. You could not avoid their fucking promo for about 2 years.
Yeah, man.
That probably killed Roadrunner actually. They apart from Slipknot and all these bands.
Your band, fuck it.
Like that, it was just constantly forced down your throat because they were the thing that they wanted to sell. Now, I never liked Linkin Park, and that was another band for me that just constantly, you could not fucking avoid listening to them. And it's like, right, crawling in my skin. This is no relevance to me. Same Limp Bizkit, just no relevance to me. Whereas, at the same time, Converge or Refused or fucking At the Drive-In, we're all making music that no one really cared about.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, it's taken me 32 years, but I managed to see Converge for the first time, and it was fucking life-changing.
Epic, yeah, man.
It was life-changing. I was just like, fuck yeah, we're doing this again every time that they fucking play.
Well, they're really good, eh?
Doesn't matter if it's big or small show.
I mean, that other, the Spider Monkey band...
What?
they jump about like spider monkeys.
Yes,
the Black Dahlia murder, no.
they're no longer a thing now.
Yeah, it's the... Oh shit. Dillinger Escape Plan.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Motherfucker. See them live. Oh Jesus Christ! Like
they're not, when they get to
that's an extreme sport and music mixed. Like, holy shit.
Their knees are going to be absolutely fucked.
But they nail it every night. They do it, and like bands like that, you know what I mean. That's what should be selling out Hampden and Murrayfield.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spice Girls were just in town. They were a joke when they started.
Yeah.
You know, 25 years later.
We've had this conversation before on the podcast of being like, who the fuck is going to fill the niche of the Stones and the Zeppelins and the Sabbaths? Because don't get me wrong,
Foo Fighters
with the hologram shows and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. Stevie Pierce was out supporting that.
But a lot of folk aren't going to top that because the holograph show trumps them.
No, but I mean genuinely, if you think about someone like Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
He is.
You're right.
He is. I mean, Foo Fighters are that now. I mean, he's stepped into the role.
But they've been like
universal
that for a while.
God.
I mean, there's no one really rising to that.
I mean, what a dude. I mean, behind the scenes, I could tell you a few stories from different. You know,
he's a lovely guy, supposedly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he allowed Carpenter Byrne to record in his LA studio.
Nice.
He got a cancellation and he hooked up well. He'd already paid, I guess their salary or whatever. But he organized, he facilitated all this, as I understand it. You know, I like. The dude, he's got there's an immense amount of like coolness associated with Dave Grohl. Behind the scenes, he just has a beer, chills out. Well, you won't see him drunk on camera, except for that Lemmy documentary and the bonus disc, but because he gets it.
One of my favorite things was that like Foo Fighters and folk like that, like I watched the Desert Age documentary and the way how Caius got so popular.
Fuck Josh Homme.
No, but the thing was, like
Nick Oliveri's a hero. John Garcia's a fucking hero.
But the thing was, supposedly, like whenever Foo Fighters were going about, that was the first thing they said. Like, don't listen to us, listen to Caius. That was like literally in their interview of like, oh, you're a hot new thing. It's like, don't give a fuck about us. Listen to this band.
Funny.
That's so fucking selfless.
They
finally got your.
Here's a question. Do you know what Queens of the Stone Age were called when they started?
No, I'm not the biggest fan.
Not a lot of people do, but they were called Gamma Ray. Gamma Ray was also a band that had previously existed, and Gamma Ray didn't sue Josh Homme.
Right.
So then they became Queens of the Stone Age.
Okay.
Josh Homme is fucking suing everyone he can because he's a cocksucker. He's a fucking loser.
I know very little about him.
I mean, he just constantly. I mean, even John Garcia, the Caius Live stuff, which Carmen de Byrne were involved in. Like he's a rich dude. But he's suing these other guys because they use, like Caius Lives as opposed to Caius and all this stuff.
But they're playing Caius songs.
Yeah, that you didn't fucking write.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the Queens of the Stone Age were great. I mean, up until like for me, Nick Oliveri is a hero. I really mean it. He's a fucking machine. He's a brilliant songwriter.
Rated R album.
Yeah, well, Lullabies to Paralyze was the first one without him, I think, and Signs on the Best, as far as I know. Little Sister was written by Castello, the drummer. Yeah, that's the best track on that record, if you ask me. Yeah. So it's actually not a bad album and that, but Josh Homme just gets all this fucking
kudos,
hype.
A good one, kick a fucking lassie in the face with a camera. Good one.
Yeah, that was the last thing I fucking heard about.
I mean, there's only so much cocaine you can take and pretend you're Elvis before people kind of, it's Emperor's New Clothes for me. It's just like, right, hang on.
Yeah.
Well, you had really cool riffs, and now you just fucking swan through places thinking you're great, and everyone just.
He's just taking like Desert Rock by numbers. He's just playing it out loud. So there's the catchy hook. There's the
Desert Rock tag is something that those involved don't like as well. And same with Stoner Rock. I like. Yeah. I love it because I'm a stoner, but and I rock.
Yeah.
But like. But in reality, he and those sort of formative years. This come right back to Carmen de Byrne. Why I'm sit and listen to Carmen de Byrne still, and have really fond memories of it. And Welcome to Sky Valley's fucking amazing. There's like Caius were really good, and the same first couple of Queen's albums, or 3 Queen's albums. But it became, I think, something really got sour, especially when all these dudes who are supposed to be buddies and stoners and hanging out, all of a sudden are getting sued by their pals. And what the fuck? There's lawyers involved all the time.
It shouldn't be that way, man.
Well, it's something about you mentioned about the industry almost being in flux at the moment as well. It's with the online streaming thing now, you've got YouTube. It's like trying to get promotion. Bands from all over random places around the world are now getting more exposure than it's all just being. Here's the latest thing from EMI or fucking Roadrunner.
Isn't it cool that our buddies down the street might be like really popular in Iran and shit like this happens? Like the Philippines are mad into like I don't know goat whore or Tommy Concrete's going to be big in Japan. Yeah, sorry.
I'm big in Japan.
Well, just talking upon those things. Obviously, back in the day, you'd have to be reading your magazines or follow your peers. Like you'd have someone's older brother would pass you a mixtape,
and the influences. So like you'd read about your favorite band.
Or in the T-shirt game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's Tool. I think was the only reason I got into Tool was because all my favorite bands had someone was wearing a Tool T-shirt all the time. Like your Pearl Jams, your Faith No More's, your Alice in Chains. That's
if
my
you want to find new tunes, that's the fucking best way to do it.
And
check out the t-shirts.
Balkarama, actually.
Fucking legendary Bulk shirt.
I've just got a Scapegoat one, sorry. I'm just shamelessly promoting yourself.
I actually got your shirt over there as well if you want it, man.
Oh, sound nice, man.
But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap this up because the cameras are gonna die and all that sort of.
And I gotta go to work.
I gotta go to fucking work, and we've got a gig to go to. So fuck
y'all.
So anything you want to promote or doing, or anything that you give a shit about apart from just work?
Well, yeah. Do you know what, man? Last weekend I worked a festival in Scotland called Punk on the Peninsula in Dunoon.
Okay.
Oh,
so a 4-day, was it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Yeah. And
West Coast.
if I was to plug, it's not far from Glasgow. You get a little ferry from Gurach across the Dunoon. If I was to plug one thing, I know it's happening again next year.
Yep.
I would plug that because it was fucking great fun. The Cockney Rejects, the Ruts DC played my buddy's band called Rust from Australia.
Lots of knees up fun then.
Yeah, and like, okay, I mean, you don't have to be into your punk to enjoy a nice. There was nice weather, coincidentally, but it's a lovely wee place. Because you have to get a ferry, you don't tend to knock into morons unless they're from there, which we didn't really see. Mind you, a lot of Rangers
There's morons
fans
everywhere, but yeah.
And don't bring football into this. But Jen,
I've kicked folk out before as well.
But yeah, sorry. Genuinely, I would plug that Punk on the Peninsula in Dunoon. It'll be again next year. Hopefully, Exploited will play it next year. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I read all around good weekend.
Yeah. If you can, catch him up at some point as well because he's a lovely chap. What you got sorted?
Well, right now I'm working on your releases actually. I'll be mixing Mr. Marquet, I'll be mixing Gendo Ikari, I'll be mixing these podcasts, and we're also hitting the studio with Vasara. We'll be hitting up Dave's Broken Drum Studio over in Gorgie and start tracking and writing for the release, hopefully by the end of the year.
Do the way around, do the writing first, then the tracking.
That's the one, yeah. We've got half of it written, so we'll do the other.
You can track half then, right?
Also, as well as like the kind of bigger gigs that are coming up are like coming up soon, so I'm running about with Post as well, so yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Thou on the 18th, Earth on the 22nd of August. Like that's going to be fucking awesome filming that. And the undercard if there is one, or it's just going to be 3 hours of Dylan Carlson, which will be fucking ace. So I can't wait for that.
I'll be there for the Thou, Moloch and Endless Swarm one because obviously my Endless Swarm boys are going to be playing. So.
Still got to give a shout out to Stu Gordon because he's not very well, but at the same time the Bacchus Baracus gig is on this evening. Then you've got Perpetua and Razor Sharp Death Blizzard, that's in Gala Shields.
Perpetua what?
Perpetua Razor Sharp Death, and that's in Gala Shields. Then you got High Fest, which also Perpetua's on, but then the other one is outside of Scotland, but it's totally worth going to. It's called Doom Lines. Right, so Doom Lines is down in Sheffield, and they've got like the Body playing Bast. They've got like Sloth Hammer, all this lot. The guys from Kurakuma and Holy Spider are putting it on, and they've done a few. This I think is the 5th one. But yeah, totally recommend it if you can get down to Sheffield. Leeds has got Weed Eater. Fuck man, there's loads of shit going on at the minute. So yeah,
tis the season.
Tis the season. So again, if you want to record anything or like do anything with Broken Drum or book Vasara, get in contact with him. But I don't know how they would get in contact with you. You're fucking too busy.
Turn up here and hope for the best.
You go to a forest and you make a pentagram.
Is it like Candyman?
Summon the Dark Lord.
You just look into a mirror.
I'll just be around the back smoking a joint.
You look into a mirror and you just go Magners. There it is.
But just remember, in Ireland, I'm just Rob.
Yeah, exactly. Just in Ireland, it's all you know is Rob. Peace out, motherfuckers. We'll catch up soon, alright?